What up, y'all? It's the Chondro Bar Room every Tuesday. We glad to
You
see
back
y'all here with
again.
us every Tuesday. We didn't kick Ryan out like we usually do. But this is our guest tonight, the legendary Ryan Young. So
I
I
don't know
think we're
about
gonna get
that.
right into it because I feel like we all got a bunch of questions. But
We got a
uh,
track record to speak for itself.
yeah, we got a legend. We got a legend here tonight. So I'm gonna let everybody go around the horn. Um, everybody want to do their promo tour. We'll let that happen first.
I'll go first. I never do promo tours. Y'all, thank y'all for checking in. Thank you. Welcome to the hobby if you're new. We excited tonight, man. We got Ryan Young, dude that man, he didn't produce damn everything, man. I guess it's a whole damn list. We just gonna go down the list. But I'm excited for this show tonight, especially on the Green Tree side with the locality based things we got going on. Other than that, it's another day. I ain't had no snakes die, so fuck it. There we go. A couple more of the babies than ate, so we rolling.
I'll go. I don't got much to say. I got babies for sale. I got surrounding babies for sale. If anybody's looking, but that's pretty much it. I'll pass it off to Chuck.
I ain't got nothing, man. Just busy with life. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Chris from Inbox 3D. Best 3D printed purchase in the game and other stuff, too. So go check them out.
Chris.
Bottom of the screen.
And
Chondro Bar Room 20 is our discount code. I ain't got nothing to update here. I'm just cruise control right now. Just kind of
Shout out to
enjoying what I
Chris.
got.
so, Ryan, we'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get to interrogating you shortly here.
Well, I'm Ryan Young. My company's Molecular Reptiles, and I pretty much specialize in breeding pythons. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I look forward to the discussion. I don't talk most of my friends aren't into green pythons, so I don't get to talk a lot of green python talk.
Neither
Nah,
do
you gonna get the nerd out tonight.
we.
All right.
You already
So
getting love in the chat room, big time, Ryan.
Oh,
You
wow.
got, don't you have like 30 something other species of pythons you could talk about that you've bred, though?
yeah,
Yeah,
what's up with the
Yeah,
chat, by
I'm
the
up
way?
to, yeah, I'm
What's up
over
we
with the chat?
35
we're gonna
or
get
something like that.
we're gonna get
Noel,
to all
Didi,
that stuff.
Chris here.
Um, we got a lot of people here. We got
Reptile, what's up,
Aiden, we got
3D?
little Aiden, Randy P.
What's up, Aiden? Pat
I don't
here,
know who
Randy.
Lisa Farina is, but what's up, Lisa? We got Earl's cousin Earl's in the building. Pat, Adam Salad, I gotta talk to you. Dee Dee, Noel, they always in
You
the
say you got
house.
one of your favorite pairs. All right, we're gonna talk about that
Jordan
later.
Higgs, what's up, Jordan?
Yeah.
All right. So, Ryan, you want to get into your background real quick?
Well, I was a young kid working at a pet store and was always interested in animals, and then started breeding. Or when I moved out of my parents' house, then I was able to start getting snakes, and my first snake was a chondro. My first purchase, anyways, was a green python. But,
How was that like with your parents? Cause see,
my parents were listen.
my mother let me have animals, but she wasn't. She didn't play that shit with the snakes.
See, I mean, I got to give my parents a ton of credit. They let me do pretty much everything but snakes. I bred a bunch of parrots when I was real young, and
Okay.
some and rodents. I had a lot of lizards, various things. I was able to keep a rubber boa, which is a local native species, and I had one ball python for a while that the pet store gave me. That was a huge
Okay.
import that wouldn't eat, but other than that, she wasn't too keen on letting me have pythons. And then, so I figured
Yeah.
when I moved out, I went a little crazy.
Yeah. I think I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I went stupid.
Yeah.
So let's get into like your history of when you first started keeping and up into breeding.
Okay.
Yeah. Like when you got first serious with the
The
chondros.
well, I bought the first chondro turned out to be a female. I bought her from a fish supply wholesale store in Seattle, and I was able to drive over there and get her. They had her on her list for years, and when I got her, she was pretty much almost an adult. And I went and drove over to Seattle, which is about a 5-hour drive from here. I picked her up, brought her home, and I kept her in a 29-gallon fish tank that I had smashed the front out of and put sliding glass doors in, and a little litter dam, and it had like a little oak top with a heat light, and she was on my nightstand next to my bed. So that's how it started.
What year was that?
1998.
98, okay.
Yep.
Right before
So-
Y2K.
Yep.
So at that point in time, you were collecting chondros. Like, could you explain like what that period was like? And I saw that your first clutch was in 2001, so I want to go into that after this. My son just showed up. I don't know why.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. So when I first got into it, I kind of went. I was just kind of grabbing whatever became easily available. I think I had about 4 pretty quick. Over the course of like a year, I ended up with 4. But I also started, getting other pythons too. And then I didn't know much, or I didn't know anything about the locality stuff. I had looked at pictures in books and talked to people, but as you know, back then it was kind of hit or miss on who believed in locality and who didn't. So, but I quickly noticed, like, well, this is weird. There's some very distinct differences amongst these things, and that always steered my interest more. Not to say I made mutts too. My first clutch was probably a mutt clutch. The female was a sarong animal, but the male was like a Peter Call mixed blue line male, and so they ended up breeding in 2001. And so that first female that I got at the pet store, at the wholesale place, she ended up having the first couple clutches that I produced.
You're the first female, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty incredible you didn't kill the first chondro you had.
No, I mean,
exactly.
The funny thing, I always thought
because
back
then they used to say like, you kept a chondro for 3 years, and after 3 years, it's probably gonna die on you.
Oh, I think I actually was fortunate that I didn't live around any chondro people, so I didn't. I just kind of based what I did on how they behaved, and not as much about what other people told me. And I think that actually helped me. I didn't even have a gram scale back then, so I was just looking at her. I knew about how old she was, and I was like, well, she must be sexually mature. But back then she would have not been sexually mature based on all the the 1,000-gram thing everybody used to talk about. I
don't think that's true.
Yeah, I don't think she ever got over 800
grams.
grams. So
that was a benchmark that everybody was yelling back then.
No, that I didn't even know. I had bred chondros, I think, probably 3 or 4 times before I had a scale, and I weighed my females, and I was like, "Huh, I've bred every one of them, and none of them are 1,000 grams."
I think it's a really arbitrary number, in terms of females, especially for something that doesn't occur in the wild. But I got a question about 2001. So your first clutch was in 2001.
Yeah.
How have things changed with you in terms of pairing, incubating, and establishing animals from your first time doing it to now? I imagine that things have drastically changed. But what are some key things? Will you tell me about what that setup was like back then?
Back then, I think when I bred them the first time, by then I'd started making some melamine cages that I was keeping them in. I had them in 2-foot by 2-foot cages. And then incubation, I mean, back then, the python friends that I did have cooked on vermiculite, and so I used vermiculite, and that went totally fine. I don't know.
Cooler?
No, I had that same year I'd bred some other species, so I had like an old freezer like one of those 70s or pea green freezers that somebody had thrown out.
Or the little bubble shape, they almost like rounded corners. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
it was just that ugly old color, and I took the front panel out and
Damn, man,
just
we
put
taking
heat
me
in
all
That's
it.
the way back.
old.
It took
Wait,
me
you
all
talking
the way
about the ones
back.
with like the weird hook on the front or the weird
Yeah,
latch?
yeah.
What
That's
the
old.
fuck?
Yeah, so
That's
we
the one
just
the
Jesus,
kids used to
Ryan.
suffocate in the trash. They used to have to take the doors off.
we just gutted all the the cooling elements out of it and everything, and just put a little heat cable in there and some fans, and it worked fine. Honestly, I think I had better success when I didn't listen to other people, and so I've kind of gone full circle. For years I was, in the meantime I did the no substrate thing, and I had really mixed results, honestly. And last year I tried maternal, that went to shit. And then this year I was like, you know what? I'm going back to the Wayback Machine. I put them all on vermiculite. It was amazing. I'll never do the no substrate again. So
It seems dangerous. That's all I would say about it. People do it, but it seems dangerous.
The no substrate.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems so risky.
I've only had, I think, maybe 3 clutches that went perfect on no substrate, and I've had a lot of full term dead in the egg babies that I never had early and I didn't have this year. So
Hey Ryan, do you typically battle mold when you're putting them directly to vermiculite at all?
no, I haven't had any mold. I had I think I had one egg that got a wet spot, but I put some glue on it and it was fine.
And can you tell us what your egg boxes are like now?
The egg box is an Iris CD container. They sell one for fitting old CDs in, and it's not a super tight tub, and it's I don't know the quarts or whatever, but it's a decent sized tub, which was another thing I was looking to change over using like a sim box. I wanted a bigger tub. I was tired of condensation, so I used a big tub, not a lot of vermiculite, and it went well.
Nice. And you got air holes on that you tape up and you open them up at all?
I didn't on these ones. In that incubator, the first walk-in incubator I started the year with, I didn't put air holes in the tub. If I do next year in the new incubator, I will have air holes because the 2 incubators run pretty different.
So you got two separate walk-in incubators now?
Well, the old ones, I mean, I've cut the power to it. It's basically just a closet now that I need to tear out.
I was gonna ask you about that. And your setup for that looks pretty crazy. That you're controlling it with one thermostat. And I was just like, how are you doing?
Yeah, I saw that too. I was looking at.
I was like, how are you doing it? And the plugs, I was just like, what is this? Please tell me about this.
The room controller, it's just a Johnson's A419. Well, I guess it's an A421 now. But it has there's just 2 timers. There's a timer that controls the lights in the fans in the room, and the other timer controls the no load relay that tells the thermostat when to set the temperature back. And then there's one light switch that turns on the red lights that I have in the ceiling fans so that I can go in there at night and just kick those on and wander around.
That's pretty amazing. That's got to be the most elaborate system that anybody has talked about on here.
It's pretty old school, really. It's it's just on and off. Everything's pretty basic. So.
I feel like you're the MacGyver. Like every time I ask you a question or I talk to you, you're always like, yeah, nah. I just took some duct tape and a Q-tip, and next thing you know, I had 6 clutches.
Oh well, I haven't had 6 clutches in a year, but I've had it. So someday.
So you
Ryan,
also go ahead,
Chad. My fault.
So you also said that you had a baby room, and that was my question. Is your incubation room and your baby room the same? And if not, how are you keeping that baby room?
Okay, so the old incubator room that I had was basically I had built my original snake room in the building when I moved out here, and then I had built a rodent room, and there was about a 5-foot gap between the two rooms, and then I basically just walled it off and made it the first baby room that I had, and at the end of that baby room was like a 4-foot by 5-foot, I mean, tiny little, room that I'd turned that into the first incubator. On the new one, there's a front room that's going to have a big wash sink in it. And then it's a little, I'm keeping it colder. It's like in the 70s. So I can have some of my turtles and some snakes that don't like to be as hot. And then there's an incubator in that room. That's the new walk-in incubator. And in front of that is the door that goes into the new baby room. So
Okay.
they're not the same room. I mean, they're all basically one space, but it's kind of divided up.
What is the square footage of this facility that you have?
The room that I just, or the two, or the three, I guess if you call it three rooms, the incubator, the baby room, and the front room. They're, I think it's 9.5 by 36, and then the other snake room for the adults is 12 by 42.
Wow.
So and then the room that's the 9.5 by 36 is separated by two doors.
Yeah, when you first walk in, if you go to the left, there's the walk-in incubator, and it kind of becomes a hallway that leads to the baby room.
Okay.
And then the baby room is what is it, 9.5 by 12 or something?
That's amazing. Are you out in Washington still?
No, I'm in North Idaho, right next door to Eastern Washington.
Okay. All right.
Damn, you got like 1,000 square foot snake facility.
I haven't done the math. I guess I don't know.
Well, the first room's just under 350, and then
Okay.
12 by 42 will give you right around 500 square feet. And what was the other one? 9 by 12.
No, that 9 by 12 was part of that original, the 36 by 9.
36 by 9.
Yeah, so that's the end of that. That's basically one space that I turned into 3 rooms.
Well, shit, just the 12 by 42 and the 9.5 by 36 is right approximately 850 square feet, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I guess
Just
that's
those
what I've
two.
got.
That's a lot of fucking room.
It's not enough. It's never enough. I'll tell you that. It's never enough.
How many animals are you dealing with? How many animals do you own? Like, I mean, like adults.
I don't know. There's a couple hundred in there.
Wow.
Goddamn.
He said he don't count them. He just look around and says, "I need to feed someone."
I mean, I could probably, if I sat here quietly with a pen and paper, I could probably come up with a decent estimate. But my collection probably ranges anywhere from 250 to 500, depending on baby season and stuff like that.
So how many of these animals, like when you're picking these animals, and I got another question about holdbacks and things like that. Like, what is your ratio of animals that you're keeping and your ratio of animals that you're letting go? Because that's a lot of animals, Ryan.
I mean, most of the other stuff I sell all the babies.
So that's 200. To be clear, that's 200 green trees.
No. I thought we were pythons in general. I have around 60 chondros, I think, 60 something chondros.
That's still a lot. That's still a lot.
Most of those are babies that I produce, though. It's not, it's not.
Okay.
It's not a bunch of adults. It's mostly coming up stuff.
We don't expect the Biak guy to count his contract. We don't expect you to. We know you got a lot over there. Every time we look up, you got some new snakes.
So walk us through a breeding season, basically from introduction to you already told us how you feed the neos, but to hatch day.
Well, my breeding season is I food cycle and temperature cycle. So in the summertime, I feed pretty sparingly. It can get pretty hot here. And my adult chondros are on the upper shelves of my big snake room all the way around, except where the emeralds are. And then it can get, my room will get real hot in the summer. And they can eat and be fine, but I usually give them a couple months off in the middle. And then starting October 1st, is when I start manipulating temperatures, and then that usually by early September I start feeding more, and then by October 1st I start cycling, and I usually drop the temperature like 2 degrees, then a week later 2 more degrees at night, and then it takes me basically a month to go from 80 to 70, and then I stay down at 70 for a month, and then I take a month to go back from 70 to 80. But those are that's the nighttime temperatures. The daytime temperature is always 80.
Okay.
All right. I got you.
And I heard I heard that once your female's gravid, you just screw a light bulb in there and you let her heat up with the light bulb.
Yeah, I don't give them I don't give them any heat other than once she ovulates, then I'll put just like a 25-watt ceramic heat emitter over the top.
That's fucking crazy.
And then this year I actually started. I had a female for years that would never. She always would go sit in her nest box and then dump her eggs all over the cage. So this year I wasn't having that. So I put her in a tub in a rack, and then she laid her eggs. So I'll probably start doing that from now on with all my females. I did it with all of them this year, and the two, and they.
Oh, John Irby does that too.
Yeah, and then I just put them in there on top, with the Antarisa, and they just sit back there and lay their eggs, and then I put them back in their cage. And so now I might not even give them heat at all; just put them in there with the heat tape, and be good.
All right, so look, so 2001, you had your first clutch.
Mm-hmm.
You said it was a mud clutch. Around when did you start focusing on only locality based pairings?
I would say I was noticing pretty early that there was differences. Obviously, the community back then wasn't really on board with that, and I'm trying to think that.
You talking about how they said that the Manicaris was made up?
Oh yeah, they thought all that stuff was made up. And that's that's fine. I understand why they were doing it. I think pretty early on, that was the only one time I made a not a Manicore, but a Bioc Cyclops cross, and then other than that, those were the only 2 cross clutches I ever had.
Okay. So then, were you holding them back everything like they were back then too with the designers or what?
No, for years I was trying to get my started. I needed the money. So I sold it.
So, but when did you start focusing on like, all right, this is Maniquari, I'm gonna keep this like this and Arus like this? Because I know you really got into the Arus first, right?
Yeah, I had when I came up, everybody was like, you can't make a high white Aru, you can't make a high white Aru. And I started looking around at what their evidence was, and I was like, well, they do something one time and then make these bold predictions. And I never seen anybody keep the babies, and they would keep one baby, and if it didn't turn out what they wanted it to, they were, easily swayed. And so I think it was
breeded to a Maroke or something.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing, but I had the opportunity to get a pair of, or I guess first I formed a theory that you needed to line breed them, just like making a high yellow jungle or whatever. And so I thought, well, nobody's ever bred babies that they've produced at that point that I had seen. So in 2000, I think it was 2007, something like that, I had the opportunity to get a pair that Chris Ruley had produced from his really nice adults. And they were his holdbacks. And they were decent looking for captive bred, some of the best ones I had seen. I mean, pretty plain compared to, what wild, the really high white wild ones, but better looking than the few captive breds I had seen to that point. And so I had the opportunity to get them. And I did. And I got a couple other roos. And at that point I sold all my chondros, and I was just going to do a ruse. I was just going to have a big, huge Aru extravaganza, I guess. But I quickly, Well, I did. I didn't have. I breed a lot of other stuff, so I didn't have a ton of room for adult chondros, and so I
So
thought, well, if I keep my
how
babies, I gotta have somewhere to put them.
how far did you get in the Fs with the with your root projects?
I've done my own line, and then I've taken that line. Just the um, I've got adults coming up from that are F2s, but I did the
Okay.
or no, that'll be F3s, but I've got F2s, and they're spectacular.
So and you and they way better than your F1s.
Oh yeah, no, there was only I think I had like 10 or 12 babies, and only 2 of them were like equal to the parents. The other 8 were the best. At that point, was the best captive bred Aru clutch that I'd ever seen.
So that
And
brings
what?
me to
And
another question.
okay.
You want to go?
Did you
So
keep those? All right, my fault, because it might lead you into that trap. But did you keep those too? And like,
I
well, that
kept
was
all of
that.
them through the color change, and I kept 2.2, and I sold the rest.
Okay.
okay.
All right.
So hold on a second, because I wrote it down. So you just talked about your F1s and F2s.
Yeah.
I think everybody's defining line breeding differently. Could you define line breeding going from F1s to
Look
F2s to
at you. I
F3s?
was just about. I was about to ask. I
See?
was just about to ask.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess for me, line breeding means that you take, you have a founder pair basically that are wild caught, and then that first generation is F1, um, and then the second generation is F2, and that's from breeding sibling to sibling from you know, related adults.
So you think that's the key to getting high white Arus in captivity?
Yeah, I mean, I can only attest to what I've done, and it's I've bred. I have my own line that I started from 2 wild ones, and their babies were
Excuse
much
me.
more spectacular in the first generation than the Ruli ones. So I haven't bred them. I'm almost to the point where I will be breeding those to see what their next level will be.
Did you see any
Yeah.
birth defects or infertilities while breeding the direct siblings?
No, that's pretty well. I mean, I think you would have to do generation upon generation to have any problems, and you're only going to have problems if you breed something that has a problem. Those
Okay.
those inherited bad traits like that, that has to be something you're breeding into the population. If they don't have something to start with, they typically don't just gain something.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's, I mean, the funny thing, people always try to steer away from that, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but the reality is there's a reason why an Aru chondro looks the way it does, and that's not because it's constantly breeding with Marukis.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
So my question,
Kofi owls look like they do because they're, the founder population of Kofi owls was probably, a couple animals. So
How did you find feeding your F1s? What was the difference in feeding your F1s between those and your F2s?
I didn't really find any difference.
Establishing it. I mean,
Yeah, no, I thought that the Arus, they had a bad rap for years. I didn't find them extremely difficult. I mean, you would
really.
have a percentage of babies that want to eat lizards, and we're not feeding lizards, so that is a challenge. But for the
Okay.
most part, it was a very small percentage that didn't want to make it.
so I got a question. Over the years, what are your biggest issues you've dealt with in terms of breeding, such as infertility, timing, and kinking, and just other things
The
over your?
biggest issue that I've faced is probably, I would say, baby prolapse always sucks. Um, I haven't had a lot of deformities. I've got a Maniquari that um, now that's got a real bad kink in its back because it grabbed a fuzzy wrong, and it just like folded itself in half. It was really pretty horrible, but I mean, the snake's fine now. I mean, it looks funny, but it's totally fine. And that was
Yeah.
just a feeding accident, so to speak. Um, but I haven't had. I mean, I don't feed as much as most people, and I don't. I keep them smaller than most people, I would say. So I don't tend to run into as many issues as other people do, I think.
Could we go back
What
and touch
what
on
do
the
you think that?
prolapses?
What do you? I was about to ask. What do you think the cause of the prolapse was?
Oh, pinkies? Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
think that's
pinkies
it,
are
too.
just absolute shit for
So
feeding.
how many pinkies do you give before the animal prolapsed, and how many do you do now to make sure your animals don't prolapse?
I mean, I've had them prolapse off after the second feed. I've had them prolapse, 10 feeds in. But this year I've been doing adult mice thighs, and that's been a much better. The turds actually look like an adult turd, just really tiny.
Is
Yeah.
that skinned with or without the fur?
Depends on the baby. I prefer to have the fur, but some of them won't eat it with the fur.
And two more questions. Have you experienced any babies prolapsing after they were bumped up to fuzzies where they had a prey item with hair on it?
No, I guess I shouldn't say no. I don't. I think I had one that was about a year old prolapse one time. And I'm trying to think what the circumstances around that were. I think I got greedy and was trying to feed it too much, and the snake was way too big for the tub that it was in. And when I moved it, I actually had just moved it to a bigger tub, and it tried to take a real gnarly dump, and it didn't go well. And the snake was fine. I was able to remedy the situation, but
I don't think we've ever actually said it on the show. So could you do me a favor and explain to new breeders if they should have a baby that does prolapse, exactly how you fix that prolapse, and then if you take the perch out, how long you don't feed it for? Can you walk us through? You open a tub and a baby has a prolapse. How would you address that?
well, the first thing I do is I got to pay attention to what time of day it is. If it's really early in the morning, I'll typically, like, if it looks like it just did the deed, like just had the crap, a lot of times I'll just take the perch out, set it on the paper towels, take the water bowl out, spray it down, and I've had 3 that just went back to normal on their own.
Okay.
Because I think the problem is sometimes if you've ever watched even like one of your adults go to the bathroom, they have prolapse anyways.
Yeah,
I don't
I've
think
seen
it's
it come
yeah,
all the way out
yeah,
Oh
and
my
literally
God, bro!
slide.
It looks like
Yeah.
Right
one of
back
them
in.
the balloons with the sea creatures in it to just move out of your hand.
And it'll
yep.
slide
So
right back in though. Yeah,
I
I've
try
seen
to
it in
give
the
them a
shower.
chance. If it's not too severe and it looks like they were just trying to take a crap, I try to give them a chance to bring it back in on their own. I'll usually wait a couple hours, and if I go back out there and it's still like it, then I typically I'll take a snake probe, not a little one, but a big one. I mean, an appropriate size one. I don't know how to describe that on air. Just one that's
Is
roughly.
is it the one with the little? Is it the one with the little loop, or is it actually a ball tip?
No. It's probably like if you had your set of probes, it would be not the biggest 2, but like but it's the full stainless steel. And then
You're giving them the magnum. You
so
give them the straight magnum.
well, you got to get that back in there, and you don't want to poke a hole in
Oh
them.
shit!
So I'll usually sprinkle some sugar on the cloaca, or on the tissue, and then I stick like KY on the stainless
It's
steel, and just
KY
try to
jelly on the stainless steel.
and just hold them upside down and push it back in.
Ramrod.
So you do not use preparation H.
No, I've never used that.
Okay, and then typically you put it in. I'm guessing you would hold the cloaca for a second or two and make sure it accepts
Yeah.
it and it doesn't pop back out.
Yep.
What are you doing after the baby now has the reinserted prolapse?
Then I just put them back in their tub overnight without a perch and without a water bowl, and then the next day I give them their perch and water bowl back.
Are they on wet paper towel overnight or is it dry?
Yeah. It's not soaked, but it's not nothing.
And how long do you wait to feed that animal? Does it depend on the size and age?
I usually wait at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
If it's a snake that had eaten a bunch, then I might go longer. If it's a snake that did it, after a meal or something, then I don't wait as long.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
I How many meals are you feeding your animals? So with that, with the pinky in mind, how fast are you trying to get them to fuzzies?
Well, now, like this year, I gave the Num 4 clutch. I fed them pinkies. They were already too big by the time I decided I was going to try the thighs. The Maniquari clutch, I gave them pinkies once, and I've just given them thighs since.
Okay. So I got a
And I would,
question. Oh, go ahead.
I want to give them. They're ready for fuzzies, but I'm going to be going out of town, so I'm just going to feed them thighs, and then when I get back after 2 weeks, I'll probably switch them to not a fuzzy mouse, but like a big peach fuzzy is what I call it.
Yeah,
Got
yeah,
some
yeah.
fur.
So
But I
you going one pinky and straight to thighs.
Yeah, I did the one pinky and I had one prolapse, and I was like, oh man, to hell with this. I'm not doing this again. And
Okay.
so I put them on the thighs. And I did some with one thigh, some with two thighs, just to see if there was any difference. And the ones that I was giving two thighs, they got a little bit bigger quicker. So now I'm giving them all two thighs.
Okay.
And I think I only had, there was two that decided that they did the thighs a couple times, and then they didn't want to do thighs. So I've given them, like, I took real big pinkies, and then I would stick like a piece of mouse tail inside of them.
Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. So temp gradient, because I was going to ask you this because I know you keep snakes in multiple rooms, but how do you manage temp gradient with all
As
these
far as a basking spot or just ambient, or both?
Yeah, in these rooms.
Well, I have the room set at 80. The chondros are up high, so they tend to be running probably 82-ish. In the summertime, my big room will get up to like 88 degrees for a few hours in the afternoon, and then back to 80 overnight. In my baby room, this is the first summer I've been doing this room. The warmest I've seen it so
What up,
far
Mark?
is 84, I think. And then
What up, Mark? What's going on?
I think the Chondro babies have a basking spot in the back of, I think I have it set at 86 or 87.
Okay. That's mine. Set that right at 86.
I said it like 85, 85, 86.
I've
It's usually
raised a
85.
bunch of them with no basking spot at all. So that rack just happened to have heat, and I put Antarisa in it too. So otherwise, if the Antarisa weren't in there, I'd probably turn the heat off.
So I got another question. So you seem to be really fond of the Maniquaris. When you
Look, man,
breed
you
Maniquaris,
Trav, look, man. You just gonna keep taking my questions.
hey
You know
man,
what
I'm not trying to take your
I'm saying?
questions, brother.
You just gonna keep. Did you run up here in Chicago the last couple hours and look at my damn iPad?
Nah, I should have. When you're breeding these Maniquaris that look spectacular, might I say,
For real.
what are you looking for in holdbacks?
Well, I hold them all back, so I don't.
No, I just seen you didn't let a couple of them go. I seen a couple.
I
Of them.
did. I sold. I made the mistake. I sold a guy one, a yellow one. Have I sold a red one? I don't. No, I haven't sold a red one. I've only sold a few yellow ones.
Yeah, I think it was only like 2 yellow ones I saw. Maybe.
Yeah, I did sell a couple yellow ones.
I reached out to you for some red ones. As soon as they came out, that pushed us up for an hour.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I'm still figuring out the color change. Try to
Little
predict
Justin.
how the red ones change. So
What up, Justin?
What's up, Justin?
I haven't had. I don't have a big enough sample size to be comfortable selling my red ones yet.
Okay.
Hey, I understand. I truly understand.
And then I'm gonna breed for. I'm gonna try to breed the yellow out at some point.
Could you please explain that to us? How
Well, yellow appears to be a simple recessive trait, like breeding an albino. So
Yeah.
you have to start by, like, I have my red pair Manox, and they are both hets. but statistically, when I breed those two together, 66% of the babies will be um, they won't
Reds.
or no, well, like a quarter of the babies will be red, and then a quarter will be yellow, 75% will be red, and 50% of those red ones will be hets, but 25% won't be.
So, are you talking about your wild cards?
Yeah,
The offspring from your wild card? So I'm talking
yeah,
about F1s.
yeah.
So how do you know that?
Because when I bred the two reds, I get a couple yellows.
Okay. All right. Okay.
If I had gotten all reds, then that would mean either both aren't het
Yeah.
or one of them's a. You could have
Yeah.
a het to a
You're
not
right.
het, and you're going to get all reds. So I hear people mistakenly talking about, they're super reds or whatever, and it's like, well, until you prove each animal individually, you're not gonna,
Yeah.
one of them's more than likely a het, and you're not going to know because the other one isn't.
So why exactly do you want to breed the yellow out?
Probably for curiosity's sake, and it'll be. I figure it'll be a decent sales tactic if I have red ones that are unable to make yellow ones.
I mean,
But
I guess so.
truth be told, I actually prefer the yellows.
Hey, I love yellow
Okay.
babies.
I think
I
See, I
love yellow
prefer
babies.
I prefer the red cyclops. See, the yellow cyclops is the cyclops that see, they got the rounded peaks, so they're not strong enough to climb up the mountainside.
yeah,
And the
the
red ones
red
are.
the I can understand that the red
The
cyclops
red,
seems to be the most
they climb up the mountain real well.
unpredictable looking adult in captivity for some reason.
Yeah.
But the Manox, so far, the Manox that I've raised, the red ones, they look pretty much like you would expect them to look in the wild. There's been a couple that have been like, well, that seems a little odd, but not like you see with those Cyclops animals.
Yeah,
Mark, I
and
give
that's
you
an
yellow
interesting take.
designers for the win. Yellow designers for the win, not yellow
No.
purists. So I can't do yellow
Hey,
purists.
Well,
I
then you
like
don't like
yellow
a
peers,
ruse then,
man.
or Marukis.
Not cyclops though. I can do. I'm talking about specifically cyclops though. That's all.
Hmm. Yeah, the yellow Cyclops. Sometimes when they got that real spectacular blue, they're nice, but the blue's usually pretty subdued.
Yeah, yeah, they are, especially on the yellows.
Um, you know, Ron, could you also tell us about the grid trees from the Vogelkop Peninsula? Could you tell
Well,
us
the
about those?
Pulcher, that's pretty much Sarong, Maniquari, Arfak. I mean, it's all pretty much the
Yeah.
same snake.
How
Yeah.
early? How early though? Like with you being tuned in and locked in on localities, how early did you start seeing the differences between these before people like Natush wrote that paper and broke down the subspecies of that?
Oh,
And
real early.
my question
Real
was, you combine them all together, so I want to know what traits you've seen that seem to be pretty standard.
Well, the only ones I combined, I bred the first pair I bred. That snake was a Sarong, the female, and the male was PK's blue line, which, from my understanding back then, doing my homework, was had a lot of Aru blood in it. Um, and he looked basically like a captive bred Aru, but I don't believe he was a pure Aru, but
Okay.
I don't know if he had Pulcher, Uterenses. I don't believe he had any Azuria, but um, those babies when I hatched them looked very Aru-like. They didn't have much striping at all, and so that was when I was like, this isn't right. And so the
Mm.
next time I bred her to what was called an RFAC male. I mean, it was Pulcher, but then the babies turned out how you thought they should. So
Ron,
How
can
does
you guys?
artifact male that you bred it to? How did it look? It was a red neo or a yellow?
no, it was a yellow, but it looked. I mean, it looked like a yellow Maniquari or a yellow Sarong. Can't tell the difference.
You still got a picture of that?
I'd have to go to the Wayback Machine and dig that up, but I probably do.
Dig that up for me, Ryan. I want to see that.
All right, I'll dig that up.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
Could you go
Ryan,
over
do you?
your num four animals as well?
Yeah, those are Azuria. They're basically
Mm-hmm.
just a bioc on a different island.
Correct. Like
They have
Podido.
they
Yeah.
have a lot more white speckling on them, right? The Numforce as adults.
That's what we say in the trade. I don't know if that's totally I don't know if it's really a example of all of them in nature. It's probably not. It's probably just like I've seen high white biocs over the years. I've seen
Mm.
high white numphores. They mostly talk about like the blue lips and the blue kind of sides and underbelly, but I mean, for the most part, if you see enough wild caught biocs too, they it's it's hard to say for
But
sure.
it seemed like the num fours they're white as against like a balanced background as adults.
Yeah, at least the ones that are coming in labeled that they seem to be
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
way. I mean, they're if it wasn't for the white, they'd be pretty boring. They're
Yep.
basically
Exactly.
just a
Yep.
military green with
Yep.
some turquoise sides
Yep.
and
Ryan, do you?
So are you
meaner than hell.
how did that first maternal pairing go
Maternal the
with
Num4
the num
babies.
fours? Yeah.
I didn't maternally incubate them. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. I thought you would. I thought you
Oh
did.
no,
My bad.
I cooked them on vermiculite.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought they were all. Those are the only snakes I've ever had that I couldn't be 100% sure if they were yellow or red babies, and they turned out to be one's one and one's the other. And I got basically 50-50.
Mm.
Are you are you calling all poultry animals, or do you ever really try to decipher? Has anyone ever asked you to try to tell the difference, in your opinion, between a sarong or a maniquari? Or you
People
just
ask, but I mean,
because they're the
you
same
don't.
snakes.
Yeah, you don't see, at least historically in the trade, we didn't see a lot of animals coming from sarong that were red. It seems like the further west you go on the Vogelkop, the red gets rarer and rarer to the point where when you get all the way out to um, Kofiau, there's no red animals.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't look like
Mm-hmm.
there's very many red animals in the Raja Ampat Islands. They look like mostly yellows. Which makes sense because if your founding population was a yellow snake, then you can't have red anymore. So
Right.
Don't stop. Keep on going.
uh,
Keep on going.
but it's just, I mean, it's red is basically, I think if you could fast forward millions of years, red would be gone in all populations. It's just an archaic. I think what we're witnessing is the point of evolution where there's still a little bit of red left, but in the process of the snake turning green, it's trying to become a better way of turning green from a baby. And as the thing we like about red babies is the crazy color change, but from a biological standpoint, it's a totally unnecessary step, and I think that's why nature is steering towards yellow snakes.
That's really interesting. And that brings us. We're gonna let Mark get his question in early because he marked. So he wants to know: have we talked about the inheritability of white yet?
Come on, white people.
I believe that's 7 mutations. I believe that's a 7 gene mutation.
I'm just playing, Mark.
I'm guessing
Nah,
talking about white
nah,
dorsals and white spectrum.
nah. You talking about white on chondros in general.
Yeah,
Yeah, it appears to just be polygenetic. It's like it's it's if you're
Caucasian scales.
yeah, I guess yeah. So, yep, it appears to just be like trying to make a high yellow jungle or anything like that. If you line breed animals, we don't know how many mutations control the white. It's not a single gene. It must be multiple genes, and how those genes line up from animal to animal is going to express how much white the babies have.
that's interesting.
It's a very privileged phenotype.
I mean, I think nature's just throwing shit against the wall to see what sticks.
Nah, what it do though, it make you wanna get to F2s real bad.
Yeah, well, that's my other goal. I have an insanely white poultry snake that was a yellow animal, and I want to kind of do what I did with the Arus with Maniquaries.
Have you seen more white? Your poultry animals. Have you seen more white from your yellows or your reds? Referring to
Yellows seems
Maniquaries.
to throw more. Well, overall, I've seen way more white in the yellows than the reds. But I haven't line bred them enough either way to be sure.
How many different localities are you working with?
I just have the Num4s are the only Azuria I keep. I do the Arus for Viridis. I don't have any Marukis. And then on Pulcher, I've got the yellow and red Cyclops. Or Uterensis, I've got yellow and red Cyclops. And then the Pulcher, I've got two different Arus.
It do sound like DG. That's exactly what I thought when he said that.
Damn, Mark. You caught the Chuck bug. He gave it away,
Well,
and now you caught it.
I got the price.
You got the Chuck bug.
So yeah, you just got to line breed that stuff, see what happens.
So you focus on a lot of the high white and the Arus. Have you dealt with a lot of Arus with heavy blue on the bellies?
Pretty much every Aru I've ever had was blue on the belly.
Have you ever tried to focus on that or put two together because they both had cool looking blue sides on them?
No, like I said, they pretty much all have it, so it's kind of just comes along as a freebie with breeding them.
And your females, are you getting them gaining more of that? Because when my female laid from when she was a virgin till now, it almost is like it was exemplified. Like all the blue spots she had have now turned into a blue wash. It's pretty neat. And her tail went completely blue.
Oh, weird. Yeah, no. I've got some adults that turn blue when they're gravid and then turn back. They never go fully back. It's always, I don't know how to explain. It's always not. It's not what it was, but it's not blue anymore.
It's like inflation. They always retain like 25% of it. After it comes back down. Okay.
I did have one female Aru that basically looked like she was gravid all the time. It was more of a gray blue when she was gravid. It was blue as hell, but when it was the rest of the time, she was more of a gray blue. And then some of them usually go blue and come back to some degree. And then one of my founder, Red Maniquari, she went pretty blue, or she goes real blue when she's gravid, and she never really goes back. She's kind of, ever since the first clutch, she's been kind of a blue snake since then.
Now, where do the poultry animal? Where does she get it? Does she get it on the belly or does she get it on the dorsal?
The whole snake.
That's cool.
Yeah, like you can't. Well, I guess the only pattern left is usually the green that's inside the blue triangles.
Mm-hmm.
But even that, I think I'd have to look at pictures. But even that, I think she pretty well changes.
So at this point in time, you have a pretty large collection. Are you doing everything in-house, or do you occasionally get new blood in?
Last year I got a new 1.2 Maniquari stuff, or I think I'm starting to doubt one of the females. I think is actually a boy, but I got another red male, and then what was supposed to be 2 yellow females. But
you got a Uterensis animal over there too.
Yeah, I've got 2.3 Uterensis.
2.3. Okay.
So they didn't do anything this year, man. I was like, oh, they're ready, and nothing, not a damn thing.
And you don't have any Jaya Purs? They're all Cyclops locality.
Yeah, they were. I think one of them might have been a Jaya. I think one of the females was a Jaya. But I mean, there's no difference between a Jaya and a Cyclops.
Have you seen any
hold
major...
on. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Right.
Nah.
Yes,
so
it is,
have
right.
you?
I can show you. I can show you these over here.
Well, I'm sure individual animals will vary, but I'm talking about as a population whole, they're going to be, basically the same. There's little traits here and there, but nothing. You wouldn't be able, if you went to a museum and looked at a Jayapura or a Cyclops, you wouldn't be able to tell one from the other.
But if Kino Cyclops in the museum, you'll be able to tell.
Well, I mean, if you got one spectacular animal, or red versus yellow.
You got the Kino Cyclops in there, I'm saying.
I mean,
Yeah.
most of that stuff, the reality is most of the stuff that's yellow they call a Jayapura, and the stuff that's red they call a Cyclops. And the reality is that's
That's
pretty
true.
well probably bullshit. So,
So in the 20 years you've been keeping, have you seen any major differences, um, in the animals that you bring in? Like, is there any like times where like an Aru back 20 years ago looked different than a Aru you might get now?
I mean, there's more exceptional animals, but no, there's always, if I think back the whole time I've seen a ruse, there's probably 80% of them are pretty boring. 10% of them are, you know, they catch your eye, and then 10% above that are phenomenal. So the majority of wild caught aroos don't look like what people want their aroos to look like.
True.
You know, there's only been a handful of just insanely spectacular white snakes. Most of them are, you know, don't have even aroos. Most of the wild ones don't have a ton of white.
Same thing with the Cyclops. It's taking a long ass time to get exactly. I'm picky. It's taking a
Yep.
long time to get exactly what I want.
Yeah,
Yep.
Kino's gonna be waiting a long time, but he's got the patience for it. So if anybody
I
can
ain't be
do it,
waiting. I ain't be
Cyclops,
waiting a long time. I just can't
you
be
have
fucking
been
up
waiting
no
a
more.
long time. You've been waiting a long time up until now.
Outgrowing the Cyclops, yeah, you ain't lying.
Yeah, I think there's
Yeah,
two
so
locals over in West Papa in the Cyclops Mountain region that are driving Lamborghinis and have like a 1,000 square foot house due to Kino.
Nice.
that's probably true. Probably living real good.
You know
Every
those
night
commercials
cocaine
like
hookah
for
party.
$1 a day? It's like for $25 an hour, Kino employs a
You
small
can
group of folks over there.
you can support your chondro addiction.
Yeah.
Man,
Is there gonna be a four-way fight between Ryan, Kino, Pat, and Mark tonight?
Well,
That's what it seems
I
like.
didn't say that all the best. I think he's misinterpreting what I said. I didn't say that the best
he goes.
aroos have been wild caught, but not all wild caught aroos are spectacular. Is what I'm saying.
You better watch out, Pat.
yeah.
Pat will throw a kettlebell real quick.
Pat told me that you can't put all white on Cyclops, so we have to fight over that too. Because I'm gonna show him a different thing or two about that watch.
Well, I'll be trying right along with you. I've got a male that's pretty out of this world.
So I got two of them. I got. It's been a long ass time, right, man. I got two finally, and I got two females with a lot of white.
No, nice.
But honestly, I don't care about the white. Really, I really want to make bold blue dorsals. You know.
Yes.
So my end goal is really like making a Cyclops that look like a designer. I want to make a all blue Cyclops. Some
Well,
shit you be like, man,
that
what is
shouldn't be
that?
too hard.
You know, I wanna do that shit, but not from like that long established bloodlines. I want to do some.
Make
Well,
my own
honestly,
line.
that's one of the dumbest things that ever happened in history was that Arctic blue male. I think they fucked that thing to every snake other than, uh, you know, other than something that would have produced babies
Hey,
that looked like it.
hey, he passed through like 5 hands and he was fucking everything.
I saw pictures of him breeding a Maruki. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you're not gonna make a snake that looks like him by making a hybrid. Like, what the?
I
I don't
don't
know.
understand why like he never got part of a dedicated Cyclops project out.
Did he ever get bred to a uterensis? I don't think he did. It
Uh,
was all freaking
I'm not
mudslinging.
sure. I'm sure he's only playing one Cyclops. I was about to say I know Pat can speak on that. I got pictures of him on my phone though, saved, but that's I think of that same shit too. Like y'all got a completely blue wild card male Cyclops here. Why not try to establish a Cyclops line with him?
Yeah, no, it's
Pat, you
like
want to just come in tonight? We can put you in the game, Pat.
I'll
Pat
tell you
want to
what,
fight, man. Hey, tell him don't
Socrates
bring
and
no
Joey
kettlebells. Tell him
Joey
don't bring
owns
no
Pat,
kettlebells.
that blue Cyclops female Ocean. She is incredible. That is a friggin' awesome looking.
But
I
they
think
outcrossing her, and they put it with a nice male. I think was it
Rogue or is it Optimus Prime? She's been with.
Optimus
Oh,
Prime.
geez. How do you guys
Yeah,
even
but
know all this shit? Like, I can't even.
got the
Pat, I
weird.
want to put you
yeah.
in there. I want to put you in the
I
game,
don't.
Pat.
Kino,
Man.
do you know of anybody that has a blue Cyclops male right now? Because I mean, that would be a pretty incredible pairing. She's
No,
a
it's
great
none.
snake. She's awesome.
It's none. It's none in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, that European guy's been posting some phenomenal ones.
Who's this
Yeah,
now?
they got European and some Indo ones I've seen. They got some. I seen a doe that was all yellow, Cyclops,
Hmm.
all yellow, and it was like gray, like the pattern was like gray or something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Mark says he said, I'll team up with Kino.
What?
Hey, we're gonna be.
What are we teaming up for?
I think they're going to fight you, Ryan. Ryan, I think that's the thing, Ryan, is
Hey,
they're trying to
first off,
fight you.
Oh,
It's going to be...
I'm not trying to pick a fight with nobody.
It's gonna be a 4-man tables, ladders, and chairs.
I got your back, Ryan.
Cage.
oh, no worries.
No, it's
They'll
just
probably
I'm
whoop
not
up
trying
on
to
me.
fight with
it's just
nobody.
4 men. It's just 4 men. It's Kino, Ryan, Mark, and Pat.
I'll just go
I'm
back
gonna-
in my cave and do my chondro thing for me.
Oh, and why,
No,
listen.
you gotta fight it out
You're
now.
not
No.
gonna
While we're on
You're
here,
not gonna fight Ryan, man.
somebody clip this, and send this to Antoine from High Desert. He was looking for fighters for the charity event for Tinley. I can't make the
We're not fighting
195.
Ryan, man.
I can't
not
make the
gonna fight
195
guests.
weight class. Listen, they
Oh
need a
shit! I couldn't
195
get
to
that's
200 fighter.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't get down there.
Antoine, I am
Now
158
195.
pounds.
That's like senior year in
I
high
will
school,
fight
man.
at the charity event if you find me a comparable grappler, or we could do striking. I don't care. 158 pounds. I will fight someone at Tinley, but you got to give me a heads up.
What
You
grown
want
man
us
is
to go find you
158
somebody
pounds?
to fight and completely
Yes.
orchestrate it? Hell no,
Yeah,
just go fight somebody around the
I'm gonna
corner.
drop kick. I'm gonna drop kick
You said
fucking.
158.
I'm gonna
you said
street
158
fight
pounds,
Oso. I'm gonna
bro.
drop kick his bitch ass at Tinley, but I want to fight
You
someone
said
in a cage.
158 pounds. I don't think that we have any
158.
teenagers on here walking or watching.
Also,
Maybe Aiden, but no grown ass
Also
man is
gonna make you-
158 pounds.
also
I'm
That was
gonna
like
beat your
6th
ass.
grade.
I'm 158 and I bench.
Right, he said 6th grade.
We don't care.
20,
Also
We're not
gonna
about to
beat
let
your
you- we're
ass
not-
and make
Chuck,
you
we're not
walk
about
home
to
with
let
your
you beat
panties
on
in your
little
mouth,
kids.
Chuck. He's gonna beat
We're
your
not about to
ass,
let you beat
Chuck.
on little. We're not about to let
You're
you
not
beat on
beating
little
Oso.
kids. And,
Are you busting my
and
balls
bar
because
room.
I'm in shape? Fuck you guys.
No,
Hey,
we're not busting
listen,
your balls.
I got mad
because you
respect.
in-
I wish I had the dedication to do that.
We busting your balls because you think you're gonna beat Oso. We know that's not gonna happen.
I'm gonna kick
We
his
know-
ass. I'm
No, you're
gonna
not.
beat this shit. Yeah, I'm gonna beat him up.
He gonna
What-
the next
what-
I'm gonna take his lunch
He
money
trying to
too.
fight. Chuck
Why
will be
is
a Chili
this-
trying to
he's
fight
gonna
women.
beat
Why
your
is
ass.
this fight a thing with him and Oso? What's the deal with that?
I don't know.
Have you ever seen Oso?
I don't even know.
He
I'm
looks
not
like
good.
Also say he's 200
he looks
pounds.
like he looks like he eats chain link fences for lunch. He's a scary looking dude. But I'll beat his ass. I think he's all show.
No, you won't. He gonna whoop your ass. He gonna
I'm
whoop
pretty
your ass
sure-
prison style. By the end of the night, you
I'm
gonna
pretty
have-
sure he benches like
No.
380, 400 pounds. He
No,
fucking-
By the end of the night, Oso gonna have you wearing a mop head as a wig and putting Kool-Aid on your lips, calling you Tootsie Roll.
I fucking love Oso, dude.
Well,
Yeah, I'm
maybe
paid to see
he
it.
won't take you seriously, and you'll get over on him.
No, he won't. I don't think so.
Never
Oso
know,
gonna take
man.
his
It
hat
just
off,
takes,
beat
Nah,
your
just
ass.
takes one miscalculation.
Not gonna happen.
It just takes one.
I don't know what kind of machinery Oso used, but he uses these drills that look like a small car and picks them up and just drives them through like 8 feet of concrete with these huge fucking bits. I don't know what it is.
The same way he gonna drive his foot up your ass.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, be careful over there, man.
Yeah, Chuck. We don't advise this. We
Mm-mm.
don't think it's a good idea.
I'm lightweight.
Oso-
I'm agile. I'm like a cat, always laying on my feet.
Also gets in the closet and fight pit bulls like DMX and shit.
Oh man.
Yeah, right.
All right. Y'all want to get back to talking about snakes? Or what y'all want to argue
Yes.
some more? What y'all want to do?
No. We are not gonna fight Ryan first off. You know what I'm saying?
I
No,
promote my own
Ryan's old and
fights.
fat. He wouldn't put up much of a fight.
Ryan said he's shooting now.
Right,
We
you
are
could
not
be, you
gonna
could
we are not gonna
come to
have Trav
Tilly.
like
You could be the
Doc
guy that
King
puts
up in this
Vaseline on my eyebrows.
There you go. I'll be in your corner.
Ryan
Yeah,
look,
man. But
Ryan look like dude.
stop.
He's like my fighting days are over. He
Oh
pulls
yeah,
out a
my
variety
fighting days are
of
long
22
over.
pistols in his hands.
Yep.
He's like, this one has a pearl handle. This one is composite.
No pearl. Let's go straight composite.
He said, of
So I
all
want
the
to get
people here, I want to fight Oso the least.
I don't have any idea who he is, but he doesn't sound like anybody I want to mess with. So let's go.
Yeah. And Mark has a super reach, man. He got the real long arms like Slender Man. So you know he
Oh.
got reach. So he even said he don't want to do it. Even he said he don't want to do
He wakeboard his arm stretched out.
Yep. Wow.
Oh man, it's been a while since we got off the rails.
Nah, I want to get back to the. I want to get on the white lip pythons though. How's that been producing and establishing those?
I had a
That's
question
been real
about those
rewarding.
too.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed doing those. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I,
go ahead.
all right.
You want to get deep more into that? Yeah, because I want to
So
start branching off into these other species.
so you had a northern white lip clutch in February and something happened to it, but your eggs look really weird to me. They look really glossy and spongy at the same time in the picture. Can you please explain that to me?
Well, those were eggs that I had manually removed from her body, so
Okay.
they
Oh
hadn't.
shit!
When they first laid, they're kind of opaque and pink looking, and then they chalk up and basically turn into a regular looking egg, and so that's why that picture looks so weird.
Yeah, it looked really weird to me. I was just like, did he get like some super smooth buff Nerf ball eggs?
No, she had a twisted oviduct and then pushed a big portion of it out, and so I squeezed those eggs out of the tear in the side and then stuffed that stuff back in there, and now she's fine.
Do you plan on
Peter,
breeding her again, or is she done?
I would have years ago. I would have told you I wouldn't have bred her again, but I've actually bred a pygmy python, a blackhead, and a chondro that I've removed oviduct from, and all three of them have bred.
You said removed an oviduct, so they only produced what, half a clutch, basically.
Half a clutch. The blackhead lays 3 eggs. The chondro laid 8 eggs, and the pygmy laid like 3 eggs.
You got 2 questions. I'm gonna go to Lisa Farina first, and I'm gonna go to Mark. Go to Wakeboard Jesus after this. So her question was, why are the F2 white lip pythons so crazy? Do the F3s calm down?
I don't know. Well, technically, they're the the ones I've made have been F1s, and they've been mostly pretty aggressive. I think part of it's they're not scared of you like the wildcats might be. So I don't know. Rosy bows are like that. When you catch one in the wild, they're totally mellow, and the captive bred ones seem to just bite you. So I don't know what the reason is.
So that's Ryan's question. Ryan's question was, what species are you most excited about breeding this upcoming season?
I really, really, really badly want to produce rough scale pythons, Papuan pythons, and olive pythons will probably be the things that I want the most.
What's a species of python that you? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, those are the the brown chondro I need to breed. I haven't been able to get that one done, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's so easy." Well, it hasn't been easy
brown
for me,
chondro.
so.
What's a species that you have not produced? Actually, what's a species that you don't own that you want to produce, that you want to get into?
Like total fantasy land or like reality?
Yeah, but if it's Bolin's, then you have to come up with another one.
No, it's not Bolin's. It's a relative, but my total fantasy land python would be a Bismarck Island scrub python. That would be out of this world to be able to get that species. But Fantasyland or one I could actually attain. I don't know. Probably Poplin pythons have always been on my Mount Rushmore. So if I could breed those, I'd be over the moon.
Can you tell everybody why you're not able to get your hands on that specific locality of scrub?
Bismarck Islands are part of the Papua New Guinea side. So just like Australia, they don't have legal export. And as far as I know, there's only ever been one living Bismarck scrub in the United States.
So
Where's the Watar Island pythons?
Dunn's pythons from Wetar.
Yeah.
They're like kind of between like a Maclots and a Savu.
that sounds cool.
Hey, you know what's crazy? The 06, it was a lot of people having Maclots pythons, and they were very cheap, and they kind of disappeared. And now they back on the scene. They are expensive as hell. Why is that?
I think that's how everything goes. Everything's pretty cyclical, and you get a situation where snakes get cheap, people stop breeding them. Animals get old, animals die, and then
I've
they
seen that
become.
with Savu pythons too.
Yep, yeah. The last, you'll laugh at this, but the last Savus, I bred Savus 5 times, and the last time I had them, I sold the babies for $75 a piece because nobody wanted them.
Damn.
And Savu
now my
python
pairs,
like $1,500.
yeah. Now my pair's like 20-something years old and don't do anything anymore. So.
Also had a question about white lips, and his question: does Ryan have a idea on the high goals white lips? Are they a specific locale, or is it just a specific gene trait?
I imagine it's
Is that the
polygenetic.
D'Alberts?
Yeah. I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that it's a locality. I think it's like everything. It's just a spectacular individual. And, you could probably steer for it in captivity if you put in the effort.
Have you ever tried to do the straight gold D'Alberts pairing?
I had a really spectacular male that fathered my first clutch, but I've never had like both a pair that were really, really nice.
Did you get any offspring that look like him?
Honestly, I sold them all. So I don't. I guess I sold all of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Who else had a question?
Yeah, because I want to talk about the ball pythons too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then after you talk about ball pythons, I want to go into carpets.
All right.
Who else had a question?
Breeding the balls. Have you been breeding anything and had because you work with a lot of old blood, a lot of old genes, old recessive genes.
Yeah.
Has you ever thought about working with dinkers first off to try to find a new recessive, and has anything popped up in the old school bloodline that you're working with that you didn't know was there?
I haven't. I've never had I had a snake years ago that probably was a desert ghost, and I didn't think it was cool enough to keep it, so I got rid of it.
Okay.
That would have been the only dinker that I probably ever had. I didn't. I mean, I love the lavenders, and the ultramels have always been my favorite. And so back when I got into ultramels, they weren't even called ultramels. They really didn't even have a name. Nobody really was sure what was going on. And so I try to maintain those 3 bloodlines.
I was getting confused with the monarchs, right?
Maybe. If a monarch is actually its own thing, we'll find out.
Yeah, that's another question too.
Yeah, no, I don't. I believe that it's a type of ultramel, but we'll see.
Because I used to pay attention a lot to Ralph Davis when he was breeding. So I remember all those, all the horses going crazy before it is what it is now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have a fair amount of ball pythons, but it's pretty much a lavender or an ultramel. I don't really have a lot of other stuff.
Okay.
Or if I do, like the tri-stripe is all. I'm pretty much just trying to do ultra tri-stripe stuff, not a lot of just tri-stripe stuff. And the pied stuff is all ultra pied. So
Like
is this
everything,
another question?
all the ball pythons gonna be crazy.
Oh yeah, people are losing their mind.
You got a few more after that too. People really want to ask you questions.
So,
Okay.
would you ever breed more boas, or you just sticking with the pythons?
I do actually like boas a lot. I like the Corellis group a lot. I've bred 3 of those. Um, so I really like Corellis. I kind of set pretty ridiculous goals breeding pythons, and so I still got a long ways to go to get to those goals. So, and then I'm a closet turtle freak, so I find myself rapidly wanting more and more turtles. So,
What's this red turtle? This super red turtle on your page?
um, I, the
It's
leaf
really
turtle.
red. I'll go find it. Let me see.
Uh,
In the meantime, somebody had a question that says, Ryan, what species of scrub do you have and breed besides the Southerns? And there's a follow up question from Lisa. What about the Southerns changing blue?
um, okay, so the southern scrubs, I bred the southern scrubs, northern scrubs, and I've bred tandem bar pythons. Those are the 3 Cymalia I've bred. And then as far as southerns changing blue, I'm assuming she's talking about southern white lips.
Yeah.
And then there appears to be specimens that are like a steel gray blue color. Whether that's like a inheritable trait, polygenetic trait, a lot of breeding needs to be done to figure that out. But there's pictures of wild ones. It seems to be fairly common. So that would make me think that it wasn't a simple recessive thing, more like a polygenetic thing.
Hey Ryan, how many species of snakes have you
Or the
successfully
leaf
bred?
turtle.
I mean, I've bred 35 pythons and a few boas, several colubrids. So I don't know, probably 40 something.
And what's your favorite one? What's the one you're most proud of reproducing?
Well, my favorite snakes are the green pythons, but
Yes, you could just stop right there. But
What's
yeah,
been the most challenging to produce?
well, I guess I would have to.
Reproduce.
Well, the most challenging that I have produced would probably be. I would have to say the Temur pythons, just because it took me the longest. But then I would say Papuan pythons. I haven't produced those, so they've been not easy thus far.
How many times have you produced the Timors?
Twice.
Is it hard
Someone
establishing those?
The babies?
Yeah.
No. They usually eat. The babies last year didn't start eating for quite a while, but they had huge yolks. So once they were ready to eat,
Okay.
they were fine. I mean, a lot of people
So
would
you
have been
weren't
pulling their
concerned.
hair out, but I didn't. I didn't stress about it. They started eating when they wanted to.
Yeah.
So you got another question from Pandemic Pythons. His question is an Aru with a yellow baby. Have you ever seen this? I've never seen it. Maybe.
With a yellow belly.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the older they get, the blue oftentimes will turn yellow.
Mm. Pat says it's common in the wild as well as yellow and blue clouding.
Yeah.
I got something to add to that. Ryan, have you had any experience with some of these Arus that are coming in that have the red scales on them, or do you have an opinion about it?
I've had babies that end up like that. It just is fleeting. It comes and goes.
Okay, and did the adults possess that? Because I know that there's a
No.
couple different theories out there with possibly wild animals with like certain localized islands within the Aru Island chain, and that's where they're
Yeah.
coming from.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or
are you
Ryan, I've
talking
seen.
about like the red on the white?
yes,
Yeah, it's like
yes.
red
Oh, yeah,
dots.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen those animals over the years. I haven't produced one like that. I've produced babies that'll, when they're still yellow and turning to green, they'll get kind of a reddish speckling on their way to being green. But
No, yeah, like the white scales are red, and
Yeah, I've seen
talking.
some wild caught some wild caught adults
Yeah,
come out
I've
like
seen
that.
that too. I've had yellow on the white, but I haven't had red.
Yeah,
Yeah,
some
I've seen
people.
yellow, but I've seen like it look like dried up blood. I know exactly what
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct. And they're
yeah,
neat
I
looking.
wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was like an environmental thing, not a genetic thing.
I think when I was
So,
talking to Patrick about it, I'd asked him
so
questions, and he said something about possibly UV exposure
Yeah, that's
or.
what my gut would tell me that it's some kind of sun exposure thing,
They're
sunburn.
so
interesting. I like them a lot.
are you exposing your babies to UV exposure?
No,
Okay.
no.
Are you you said you are or are not light cycling your adults? Do they have lights in their enclosures?
No, they don't have lights in their enclosures. The room has lights that's on 12 and 12.
Okay.
And then you say you did like 10 and 14, right? In the fall.
Oh, for the temperature cycling and lights? Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to go like that. Now I don't. I just 12 and 12.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to.
I
I
do that
used.
because I asked because I do that in the fall too. I keep them like a couple hours darker in the fall
Yeah, my
because our
room.
fall is a little bit longer in Chicago.
Yeah, our obviously up in the northern hemisphere, our summer daytimes are longer. There's 2 windows on either side of my room, and so
So,
even like my room lights are off at 8, but it's still light outside, and
yeah.
so the room still has some light. And then in the winter, it's the opposite. By 3:30 in the afternoon, it's dark, and so
Yeah.
even
Like
though the lights are on,
4:35, it's pitch
yeah,
black outside here.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
still darker than
And
it
the light's
was.
still on in that cage, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah. But yeah, I
So
used to do more of an extreme light cycle, and I haven't found that makes any difference. So
Okay.
could you this is just for me. So I've seen your carpets. It looks like you have carpets that I've never seen before. Could you describe all the varieties of carpets that you keep and what exactly is your plan for the carpet pythons?
I have some carpets, but I don't. I'm not a carpet guy. I have my favorite carpets that I keep are the inland carpets.
Yeah,
And that's probably what you're talking about. They're kind of a weird, xanthic looking carpet, gray, and
yeah.
yeah. Um, but my main goal with the carpets was to just breed them, check the box, and move on. But
Okay.
I do have, I've got some jungle carpets. I guess I still have a pair of old Brittles pythons. I have a really old pair of jungle carpets that are like, they hatched in '94, I think.
The
And
hell?
then I have, I've got
Are
some
they still
southern.
trying to? Are you still trying to produce with them?
Yeah, they're once their bloodline will be over when they're dead. So I would love to be able to salvage
Okay.
that bloodline, but we'll
How
see.
many times have they produced for you?
They've never produced for me. I guess
Damn.
one time she laid one good egg and it was covered in slug goo, and I couldn't keep the mold off of it.
Damn. In
But they were
'94,
old. They
man.
were real old
Damn.
when I got them. I got them knowing that it was probably a losing battle, but knowing what they were, I had to give it a try.
Yeah. Good. Put the effort in.
That's what we expect from you, Ryan. We expect for you to go forth and
Well,
figure these
it
things
hasn't
out.
it hasn't
So the
paid
people
off.
with less snakes and money, we don't have to do it on our own.
But and then I guess carpets. I've got Southern Coastals. Oh, and I have a pair of Darwins. Yeah, so I got a pair of Darwins.
So I had a question earlier I didn't ask you, but like in terms of all the animals that you've bred, because you seem like you have a lot of them. What is your motivation for wanting to check a box necessarily on breeding this species or that species? Is it like
And when
Pokemon?
you
You want to be the guy to breed them all?
and
I mean
when
I
you
don't
bring
even
your
know if
Darwins
that's
again.
I don't know if it's possible to breed them all, but the I always looked up coming up. I looked up to the Barkers, Dave and Tracy Barker. They
Yeah.
um, they set the bar for me, and I actually ended up becoming pretty good friends with them over the years. They're some of my favorite people. I talk to Tracy quite a bit, And about 20 years ago, I just told her like, I'm coming for your record. I'm gonna get you. I'm a breed. I want to, they set the bar real high, and it inspired me to try to breed that many. And it was last year I tied them and passed them. And
like
so
Rocky and Apollo Creed.
he said
that
last
was
year
pretty cool. But
at 3:37, I passed him.
they're still the best. They're still the
That
best
was real subtle.
in my world. They're the best python breeders that ever existed.
Well, I mean,
I'm flattered to be, mentioned in the same breath as them. So,
when you bring
we've
your
done a
Darwins
lot.
again.
but now I've set my new goal is to breed 50 species of pythons.
Where you at now?
35.
When you gonna do your Darwins again?
This pair I've never bred this pair, so maybe this fall. The female's still a little small.
So you have some pretty cool looking Amazon tree boas.
Yep. Yeah, they're fun.
What's your goal with that? Because I saw them and I was like, what are all these? I look at Randy as like the standard for tree boas, and like if I don't see Randy has it,
nice.
yeah, I'm just like nobody else has it. But with you, I was just like, I haven't seen these two before.
Yeah, no, I just like getting nice wild ones and breeding them together. See what happens. I haven't done any of the morph stuff or none of that. I've just been breeding imports, and it's been fun so far. But I haven't bred any babies that I've produced yet. So I don't know I'm not sure I have a specific goal. I'm just kind of tinkering.
I mean, I think that's a good way to look at it. I think you'll end up hitting 50 sooner than you think, though.
Well, the tree boas don't count, so it's just python.
Yeah.
So there's not very many people that have even bred 15 species. So the thought of trying to do 15 more makes me nauseous sometimes. But
there's not a lot of people that bred 5.
So yeah. It's hard to. Once I get over 40, then I'll probably really think about it more. But we'll see.
How was breeding the lesser Sundas and establishing those?
That was probably the hardest one. I didn't do anything fancy. It was just a waiting game. I think I tried to breed them for 5 or 6 years before they finally went. But there was no super crazy trick. I think it was just waiting them out, and eventually they did it. And the babies are big and chunky babies, so they're real easy to get established. They're nothing like chondro babies. They're big, huge things.
So are you find any other python species that you establishing? Are you doing the chick down thing with them, or?
That's funny you brought that up. For all these years I've bred chondros, the chick down thing has never done anything for me until this year. Finally, there was 3 num4 babies that it actually worked, and I almost had a stroke and died because I was giving myself shit for even doing it, because I was like, what am I doing? This has never worked for me. All these idiots doing it.
And like this shit ain't gonna work.
Yeah, and then it was like they grabbed it, and I was like, "Holy shit, it works!" It's never worked. Never worked for anything before, but it actually
I thought
worked.
It was some bullshit either, but it was like crack with mine.
No, well, that's
the same
good,
ones that was running. They would run with the unscented. When I put that chick down, it was like boom. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, no, like I said, if you'd have asked me last year, I would have told you that was an urban legend, and to disregard that. But it worked for 3.
I think the key to the chick down is to get that. I think the key is to get it really hot, and then dry it off, and then put chick down on it.
Yeah,
but trying to do it while it's still wet, I don't think that ever really works often.
Yeah, I used I washed the pinkies in with like that scent removing soap. And
I tried that. That shit doesn't
work. That shit didn't fucking work.
And then I put the scent. Then I put the the chick down on it, and that. And it was like, huh, it
It's been
worked.
working for me, man. That soap worked for me.
It didn't work for me.
Yeah, no,
So
I know a lot of
before
guys
last year,
swear by it.
Ryan, before last year, every clutch you established, Python and green sheet Python wise, it was all unscented.
Well, chondros, yeah. I mean, I've used lizard scent before
Okay.
to get a chondro to eat, but I'd never used. I'd tried the chick down, but never had it. Never had it
Following
work
your
for me
footsteps
till this
back.
year.
Mm. Yeah, I do the
So,
same thing. Pat.
but other snakes, like some of the scrub python babies, prefer quail chicks, um, and a couple of the teamer pythons ate quail chicks for the first time. But
Okay.
So with all these babies, I got a question for you. How do you house them all? Like, are they in different size tubs? 'Cause some of these babies are different sizes, different kind of racks, different type of setups when you actually hatch these babies out of various species.
I use a rack that holds 3 different size tubs. So typically, other than when I produced the retic babies, I had to use a different rack, but the rest of them, I've started
Uh,
in one of those 3 tubs.
Mm.
So pretty much, most of them start out close enough. The chondros, I use a smaller tub, and the antares, I use a smaller tub, but most of them start off on standard baby tubs.
How'd your family feel about the snakes and all of the snakes and all the time?
Well, there's believe it or not, there's not a single snake in my house. They don't they don't seem to care.
Really?
Some of my kids' friends think it's awesome. Some of them think it's weird.
I'll be right back, yeah.
Their parents seem to have pretty mixed emotions on the subject, but
Yeah.
overall, none of my family's into it. My kids could care
Yeah.
less. My wife could care less, but they're they like the lifestyle that it provides, I guess. So.
Yeah, I was going to
Hey,
ask you, do you have a 9 to
Becca's back.
5 or is this your main?
This is what I do.
That's what's up.
Okay.
So Becca has a question. She says, "Why do you think other people have so much trouble breeding white-lipped pythons in captivity? I feel like you and like one other person are the only people producing them." What's up, Becca? Thanks for coming on last week again.
I think it's just a lot of people give up easily, and they try something once or twice, and if they don't succeed, then they just get rid of them. They change things too much. I think with the white lips, they're pretty high strung. I think they stress out easy, so constant changing, new cages, new environments, it sets them back every time. So I would say the biggest thing is to just keep doing what you're doing, and eventually they'll do what you want them to.
Stay
And
consistent.
I think we just live in a society now that people don't have any patience.
I think
I
that's
agree
true.
100% on that.
I think that's really true. Hey, what's up, Fry?
It's like we're in a microwave society.
Yeah, that's
Everybody want
you
it
know.
done in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean,
But
there's some pythons are pretty easy to breed, pretty consistent, and so if you've done those, they give you a sense that it's supposed to just be easy. And so when you try
Yeah.
something else, if you don't get immediate results, you tend to get discouraged and move on.
Are
Hey, Ryan.
the green tree python eggs, have they been the most difficult to incubate?
No, Woma and blackhead eggs are every bit as big of a pain in the ass.
Woman blackheads.
Actually,
Okay.
to I guess tack on to what Kino said, where would you put green tree pythons as far as full reproduction from breeding all the way to establishing babies as comparison to all the other species that you've reproduced?
I think green pythons are very easy to get eggs from, and that's from that point is where it gets more challenging. I don't.
That's when shit get real. Shit hit the fan,
Yeah, I
man.
mean, the reality. I mean, I would like to sit here and say that it's insanely difficult, but the reality is it's not. They're pretty straightforward. They
it's always It's
It's
always
just
interesting seeing. Oh, my bad.
oh no, it's just I mean usually that you don't have a ton of issues with compatibility. Typically, if you have a pair, they'll do it. Um, I think
Yeah.
the getting to the eggs point, it's the only way you can screw it up is basically if you're doing things you shouldn't be to the adults. But then once you get eggs, that can be challenging. It can go just fine, and then people think the whole thing's easy. Just depends. Every clutch is different. Every pairing's different. Every incubation time's different. Some babies establish like super easy, and then you never have any problems. And then sometimes you have babies that are a nightmare, and it just so it if you ask somebody who's bred chondros once if everything went fine, they're going to be like, oh, they're easy, they're super easy. And if you ask somebody who's done it and had problems, they're going to tell you it's super tough. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say getting the eggs is very straightforward. Getting from eggs to sellable babies, that can be anywhere from a real nightmare to real easy. It just depends.
It can take a long time too. But one of the things I've seen is people just like they're really new and they got one baby and they're just like feature green tree python breeder. I'm just like, I wish it was this easy. I
Yeah,
wish it
no,
was
I've
this
I've
easy.
uh, I've seen a lot of guys over the years that their
I
first
wish it was
clutch
this
just
easy.
goes perfect, and they're just like, oh yeah, this is the easiest thing ever. And I'm like, okay,
It's not.
we'll talk again in 20 years and we'll see what you think.
My person was hell when I first started. It was hell. It got better, but I think that all in all, I think that a lot of people think that getting eggs is the hardest part. No, it's establishing them and keeping them healthy while they do crazy stuff. It's
Yeah, like
not
I said
easy.
earlier, I'm
Yeah.
extremely grateful that I didn't have a green Python mentor, so to speak, because I think I would have screwed a lot of stuff up. Most of the mistakes I've made with chondros were when I start listening to other people instead of just
Yeah.
going with my gut.
That's crazy.
I think left to my own devices, I might have made way more mistakes than I made than with my mentor. Like I had good mentors, especially being here in Texas. I can reach out to people pretty
Yeah, I
easily.
mean, I would say the mentors of today are probably, there's the 1,000 gram thing is no longer a thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why. I mean, technology's better, but ironically, I've gone back. I'm probably more like the old guys. I don't have bunch of fancy thermostats on my adults. I don't, I've gone the opposite way and pretty much ruled out the stuff they don't have to have. And I mean, they're extremely easy to keep if you just don't screw them up.
If you don't breed them,
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah,
die if you don't breed
breeding.
them.
Yeah, I mean that's the females. Obviously, the reproduction's hard on them. They take it pretty
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah.
But I had
Breed
one female Aru lay 5 clutches, so it can be done.
over how many
Five
years?
straight 5 straight years in a row.
No, no,
Yeah,
no. She bred the first time at 5 years old, and the last clutch was at 15.
Okay.
so you're going
Are
every
you
other year, or are you doing two and then
Typically,
one off?
I've done. She did go. She at one point did back to back, and then took 2 years off. The Maniquari bred 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row. But typically, I try to go every other.
and you waiting until they 5 years old? That's your minimum
Well, a lot
for
of
the
mine,
ladies.
I don't know how old they are. They're imports. The my babies, if they're 4 years old and big enough, I'll try. But
Yeah.
typically, the first time you try, the female just runs from the boy, and then the year after that's usually when you're going to do okay.
Imports for the win.
Yeah.
How you feel
Hey,
about feeding rats versus mice?
I hate feeding them
Oh
rats.
damn,
I'd never feed them rats.
Kino, we're on the same wavelength tonight.
Why? Why?
Why?
Talk
Because
to me. Yeah, talk to me.
okay, basically feeding an adult chondro a rat is like feeding a baby chondro a pinky. The rat that you have to feed that chondro is not a mature prey item, and you're going to run into problems. I mean, you don't. Okay, let me preface this by you could feed them rats exclusively, no problem, if you cannot feed your snake, because you can feed a chondro a lot if you feed it little meals, or you can feed it very little and feed it big meals. That's entirely up to you. But all of the problems with chondros in captivity predominantly arise from their lack of movement. They're not a sedentary snake in the wild, despite what everybody wants to think. They move great distances from the tops of trees down to the bottom to hunt every night. They're not very successful in what they do. They don't eat very often. And when they do, they probably eat, the mammals that they eat are pretty good size, and then they don't move until they need to eat again.
I agree.
And if you look at like prolapse and stuff and lazy chondros, they're always full of shit because they're not moving. Taking
Yeah.
a dump is directly correlated with activity. If you take your chondro out and you feed it one mouse and you take it out and play with it for like an hour, it'll take a shit. It just will. And if you let it sit there in its cage, you can feed it 3, 4, 5, 6 times and it won't take a dump because it has no reason to move.
Mm-hmm.
And they're totally, the reason they move is to look for food. They only move to look for resources. Well, we hand them the resources. So if you wanted to feed rats, fine, feed it a huge rat, but feed it a rat like every fucking 2 months. You know, if you want to feed it every 2 weeks, don't feed it a rat. That's horrible. So, you know,
agree.
I'm a firm believer in mice. I actually think soft-furred rats are probably like the ideal prey, but
Okay.
just
I
because they
like
get
rats,
a little
but
bigger.
I like rats.
I want to get into this a little bit now.
I like to space my rats out over a longer period of time, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Like I would never like do the once a week or the bi-weekly thing.
Yeah, see, I feed like with absolutely no schedule. I'll feed a chondro every 5 days sometimes. I'll feed it every 2 months sometimes, depending on if I have an extra amount of mice. And
So
so
you were
I feed
saying
them mice.
I remember you were saying a few years ago, you were saying how your males, you had a male that fed. So you say what? You would feed him basically every 5 days.
Yeah, you can. I did an experiment years ago where I took a male, and he was real lazy. He didn't move around a lot, and I was like, okay, what's the deal? You know, why is he so lazy? And then I think I told myself I'm not going to feed him. I had paid attention to what the science said. The
Now,
science said
before you go, would you feed him rats or was you feeding him exclusively mice before you started the
I used to feed a
experimentation?
lot of rats. I'll be honest, I fed a lot of rats. That
Okay.
like I said, I listened to other people like an idiot. So
Okay.
then I started reading those initial papers by Wilson, and he was talking about how much they move.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, wow, these things move a lot. And it's because they're looking, every night they're down hunting, and then they
Yeah.
crawl back up the tree. And so I was like, well, I'm going to not feed this thing until it crawls around for 3 nights consecutively. And I think the first time it took, I think it was like 2 months. He didn't move at night. I go in there at night to see if he moved. And then one night I go in there and, oh my God, he's pacing like he's looking for a female, just going nuts.
Now,
And
can I ask
like,
you the husbandry techniques while you're doing this? Are you running were you running a night drop every single night?
No, this was during the regular time of year.
Okay.
And it's 80 degrees typically. But in the summer it'll get warmer, but it's not a night. It's the night drop the opposite way. It's hotter in the day, cooler at night. But on the opposite plane is in the winter. And so he started moving, and I waited 3 nights, and he was incessantly moving for 3 nights, and I fed him a rat, and then he didn't move for like 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then he started moving, and he took a dump. The very first night he was crawling around, he took a dump. And I was like, wow, he's never getting full of crap like you guys have all kept chondros, so you know what that's like.
Yeah.
And so then I fed him like a jumbo mouse the next time, and he was only sat for 7 days. And then I started feeding him smaller and smaller mice. And at one point, if you fed him like a tiny weaned mouse, he would sit there for 2 days and then he would move. And he would take this little tiny dump. And then you could literally feed him like every 5 days. And he would sit for 2 days, crawl for 3 days, take a dump. And you could just feed him as much as you felt like, as long as it was a little tiny meal. So I learned you could, their motivation to move is entirely dependent on looking for a resource. And that resource is predominantly food. They'll look for water, but usually, we keep their water right where they can get it, so they don't have to really.
And you
move
feed,
for it.
so you feed all your males like that, exclusively like that now going forward.
Yeah, I try to only feed them when they're showing me that they're actually hungry.
Now, what about
During
your
the
females? Do you feed your females? Are they on the same type of
no
basically every
during the
5 days
breeding
too?
during the breeding season, I'll throw that out the window, and I'll feed the females more. But usually, when you're putting the male in there, him chasing her around, she's going to take a dump quite a bit just from doing that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've seen that too.
But I'll never let them get really full of crap. If I see that, I get them out and play with them, and then they'll take a dump.
So how do you juggle that shit between 60 something
Yeah,
kinds
that's a
of
lot of fucking work. That
Well,
is
the
a lot of
babies
paying attention.
the
You have to
babies
take
you
notes.
just feed. Yeah, the babies you just feed. You don't really have to
well,
worry about.
the babies, but I'm talking about like the adults, like
Well, I don't have
your adults
60
that's
adults.
established.
I only have, I don't know, there's like 10 or 12 that are near adult size.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're
Okay.
all up high in my snake room, and I just walk around with a flashlight, and if they're moving around, I make a note. If they're not, and then I just
Yeah.
keep moving.
See, that's pretty
But
interesting though, because Kino and me and Trav, I don't know if you keep the same way. We all run a night drop year round,
Yeah.
and we've discussed that when that happens, the snakes are active, even the females, so much
yeah.
more. They move around like crazy. Like my adult females get a meal every 3 weeks, and my males get a meal every 4 weeks. And like my one female, she's probably maybe 1,000 grams, 1,100 grams. She gets a medium rat every 3 weeks and crushes it. And you can't even tell that she's eating the meal unless it's like a larger prey item. But my males, same thing. Like they're all like I feed strictly rats to all my adults. But
Yeah.
like I said,
Yeah.
dropping night drop year round, like my females are knocking shit over, moving around, pooping all the time, like very, very active. And it's
Well, that's
Especially on
weird.
good.
males. Especially
Yeah.
on males. My males like crawling. They like.
The
I
males
don't
are
know how
every
the hell
fucking night.
Glitch
Oh
do it,
yeah.
but
Yep.
Glitch
It's
he'll
fucking
crawl on
nuts.
the top of the top of the damn enclosure with his back toward the bottom.
Yep.
I
Or
don't know
you'll
how
look
he
in there
does
and you
that
don't
shit.
see them because they're like down on the floor. Like, oh
Yeah,
shit.
I'd be like, damn, oh shit,
Yeah.
did I leave it open tonight?
Yep.
Under the puppy pad, inside the fucking power cord, hanging on the power cord.
Well, I don't have that problem. So
But yeah, it's
I
funny
never had him on
because
a power cord, but yeah, that puppy pad, man, they be moving.
so I'm pretty sure they run the same temperatures as me. Like daytime is 83 to 84 at the hot spot. Cool side is 77 to 78. And then at night, it's 12 to 12. At night, hot spot is right around 78 degrees. And then the cool side is probably right around like 70, whatever your ambient is. So my
yeah, no,
ambient, I have a window unit.
I'm just straight 80 degrees, other than during the breeding season, and then in the summer it gets hot during the day, and no basking spot.
Yeah, there's
Huh?
light cycling naturally because I have tint on my windows and I pulled off the curtains, and
Yeah.
just they get year round natural light, and then like I said, it's just it's 12 and 12 with night drop. They get night drop every single night, and
Yeah,
the
no, I mean
females.
I've been to the Cape York Peninsula. It gets colder at night than it is in the day. So
Have you noticed your wild caught stuff like a little bit more humid than your Captain Bread stuff?
when you first get them, we always call it their bush meat skin. You got to
Yeah,
get
the jungle
past that.
skin.
Yeah, you got to get past that first like 2 or 3 sheds.
Yeah,
Once they get fully
it's all
hydrated,
green and dirty and it
yeah,
stinks.
yeah, yeah. You got to get that bush meat off of them,
Look
and
like
then
elbow skin.
yeah, then they're
Yeah,
good.
like bad elbow skin. Yeah, they like
Like
it
fucking
Yeah,
humid as
elbow skin.
hell.
yeah. I'd say usually that first 3 or 4 sheds seems to be
Yeah,
the once you
yeah.
can get through that, get them good and
It's like that
hydrated.
first year. Like
Food.
that
Yeah.
first year. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad we're saying the same thing on that.
Yep.
Well, we're
No, they.
winding down. We got 9 minutes left. So
When
Yeah, you
you
want to get the wrap up
when
questions
you
in?
get Ryan, when you get say your fresh port import in, you just want to dabble into your your poacher or your uterus. What's your tell me what's your quarantine like?
I just put them in a separate area, and then the biggest thing I worry about is make sure they don't have the mites.
Yeah,
That they didn't come with any pets.
yeah,
Once I figured out they don't have pets, Then I just worry about getting them eating. I'll usually, hit them with the what is it the couple different drugs, and then
Flagyl and metronidazole.
yeah.
Well, Flagyl and Panicure, excuse me.
No, I
Panic
only
Cure.
use one of them.
I do Panic Cure.
I do
I use
Prozi.
Panicare.
I think it's Praziquantel and um, Metrodozole. I think are the two I use.
Metronidazole is for like the gut bacteria, the microflora,
Yeah.
and then
And honestly, I've had lots of wild ones I never treated for anything, and they were fine. Chondros
Yeah.
Nido
are pretty
test?
unique, huh?
Do you Nido test?
I don't know. I haven't had a reason to, so.
Okay.
But I'm very anal about my babies live in a different area. I don't. Once I go in the adult room, I don't go in the baby room, and I do things in order in the adult room. Like I only have a set of feeding tongs for like these 4 roos, these 4 maniquoris. I don't sit there and go all over the room with everything. I use disposable water bowls, so there's
Yeah.
no, I'm not washing bowls and then giving them to another chondro. But I haven't had a bunch of respiratory
Yeah.
infections to be concerned about Nido. I mean, it's not that it's not
Nice.
concerning. It's just there's a lot of stuff we don't know about it, so I don't tend to overly. I try to keep my babies separate, but other than that, the adults,
Nice.
I haven't had any reason to be overly paranoid about it.
You gotta with you keeping at an ambient 80, you gotta spray your adults when they going into a shed or no?
I keep my room humidity pretty high with a humidifier,
Okay.
so I typically don't have to. But if it is a wild one, then I'll usually, for those, like I said, that first year,
Yep.
I'll
Yeah,
do a
yeah,
little
yeah.
extra for them.
Yep, same.
And then in the summertime, if I have to keep, I'll crack the windows open, and so that'll drop my humidity real quick. So I just play it by ear. If the first one has a bad shed, then I go, then I start paying more attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're typically, if you're not giving them a huge basking spot, dry, if your cage isn't a beef jerky maker, then you're typically okay.
I try to I did this less, but I've tried to when the fresh imports come in, I like to inject them with water too to pray.
I haven't done
Put
that.
put
I
some
usually keep
can of
them in a
water.
relatively small tub, so the water's
Okay.
pretty easy for them to find.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just basically for me it's just a water bowl and one purse.
Yeah. Yep.
But I'm
Yep.
Keno,
always
I got
like spraying. I'm always putting some extra CCs in the lungs just in case.
Hey,
Like
that's
just in case.
probably, if I had more patience, I'd probably do it too. I just
It do
feel,
take a lot. I ain't gonna lie. It do take a
yeah,
lot.
it's just another step. So
Yeah.
I actually got a question for Keno and Trav. And it's something I've been doing recently. When you get your new animals in, like especially fresh imports, and you're going, they're in quarantine. Do you not give them night drop while they're in quarantine? Do you
Yeah.
keep so they have
I flex.
constant?
Yeah, everything has a night drop, but I flex
Yeah.
temps on everything that's new coming in. So I flex it, their night when they come in, they night drop may be as low as 73, and then another day it might be 78. It just depends because I want to see how they react.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it.
Yeah.
I haven't been given any night drop to the ones that I've been getting in while they're in quarantine. I just keep them at a steady 83 to 78, 24 hours a day. So they have
that's what I
access to
do.
the heat.
In order to do NITO testing, in just my opinion and my conversation with Dr. Fogelson, in perfect conditions, they may not show it. So,
Yeah, I do like
you
to
want to
test
make it a
around a
little
little bit.
stressful for them. Yes. So I stress test them a little bit. I don't take it too far, but
Yeah.
I think that's how I figured out that one baby had NITO first test off the rip. So
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to. The Nido thing is interesting because I'm real curious. Basically, everything I've read, every species they've ever looked for a nidovirus in, they've found it, including us. I think we have 8. different nidoviruses.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to wonder, nidovirus is a really, really old virus. It's really big. So I
Yeah.
wonder if, like, Aru chondros might have their own nidovirus that they're totally fine with. But if a biot gets an Aru nidovirus, maybe it doesn't know how to deal with it.
I
So I
mean, that
think
makes a lot of sense.
there's a lot of questions like that we don't have answers to.
Like if
Um,
there's like you mean like if there's like island variants,
well, I think I mean,
island specific
in
variants.
essence, there's 4 species of chondros. There's no
True.
reason to think that each species doesn't have at least its own strain of nidovirus.
Yeah. Or
And
biological data, bacteria buildup.
they've
Yeah.
evolved
That's
to
true.
live with their own nidovirus. And if you give it to your close relative, I mean, look at people. When we sailed here and came to America, we gave the Native Americans a bunch of diseases they didn't know how to deal with. And
Hey, you're
you
not
know,
supposed to be telling them about no truths like that out here in these streets, right?
so,
You can't be
I mean,
admitting
it's
these
just
truths.
it's biology. I mean, if you
You
have
can't be
rodent,
admitting these truths, right?
yeah, no,
You're
I
gonna
mean,
make
if
the
you got
people
rodent
upset.
colonies, you don't want to just bring in some random rodent and throw it in your colony.
Well,
They'll
That's true.
here's my thing about nido testing, especially once you get imports. You don't necessarily know what the conditions that the animal was kept in. And I've always caught nido virus while animals in quarantine.
Yeah.
So I couldn't necessarily tell you what is the reason for it, but seeing animals flip into nido virus and then die, I think there is something to it.
Oh,
Um,
I'm not saying there's nothing to it. I'm just
Yeah.
saying I haven't, if I had a bunch of snakes showing symptoms, yeah, I'd be going berserk trying to
Yeah.
figure out what it is. I just haven't, either I've gotten lucky or I haven't had any that, have had um an outbreak, I guess, so to speak.
yeah, I
Um
had one that was fine for like 10 months,
yeah.
perfectly fine. She had a
Well,
bad shit, flipped into
you
it.
got the proper precautions. You got the proper
Yeah,
precautions on hand where you shit like you said, you got your own safeguards in place where this is these and this is for this and this is for this and when this come in, they gotta pass this criteria and your
Yeah, I mean,
facilities you got them
I'm
at
a real
different
nutcase. Like,
facilities. Yeah,
I'll only clean certain groups at a time, and I do it in a very specific order based on how long
yeah.
I've had them. The newest stuff gets cleaned last. The oldest stuff gets cleaned first. Babies, I never do on the same day as the adults. So,
yeah. I
you
always
know,
spray my stuff down and let it sit for a few days, and then spray it again the day I'm gonna use it and clean it.
yeah,
But I think that
Yeah.
the things with green trees and snakes in general is we don't have a lot to combat against it. So I mean, I think the best form is early detection. If you
yeah.
can
No, I
detect it
don't.
early,
It's probably
you
better
can
to
you
do it
can
that way for sure.
Yeah.
you can just know already what's on the horizon for you when it comes to these snakes.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, we're at time. Y'all got anything else?
No, man, this been a nice ass episode, man.
It is.
I like being on locality and stuff. I like the lineage stuff too, but I like when we can get somebody that can talk their locality shit. I like
Well,
that.
listen, here you go. You're gonna do your thing with the localities, and eventually somebody's gonna be doing locality uh, bloodline looking in, and they're gonna be talking about you someday. So
I'm trying.
you'll be doing
I'm tr-
locality lineage stuff. That's the goal,
we trying. That's the goal, right? For
just in its
sure.
infancy.
Good
I got one
question.
question for you before you get out of here, Ryan.
All right.
Your issues that you had early on, as far as localities and things like that. Do you think that you may have just came in at the time where designers were the biggest things and buying captive bred was
Because it
one of
swung
the
around
biggest things
now.
being pushed?
It swung around now, Ryan.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, listen, those guys that came before us or before me, I mean, I'm older than a lot of you.
Yeah.
Before me, they were lucky to get a chondro, yet alone with any information. So they were just, they were getting what they could. They weren't having great survivability.
Mhm.
So yeah, all their babies were precious, captive bred. I totally understand, that buy captive bred, I totally get it. I don't, the only thing that when the information started coming and they were saying it was all, BS. That was just the wrong thing to do. They should have said, yeah, that's probably a thing, but here's why we're doing what we're doing, and that's fine. And there's room in this world for both of them. I personally don't.
Yeah.
I've got no desire for the mutts, designers, whatever you want to call them, hybrids. No,
I will say
no,
this.
I got zero interest at all in those snakes.
That is where they turn a lot of people off, because they could have, instead of saying fuck these, they could have said, well, this is this, and honestly, this is where these came from. It's just is the knowledge expanding more about this, where these came from.
Yeah, all they had to do was say, look, we were lucky to get what we got, and we bred anything we could get together, whatever lived long enough to breed, and the captive bred babies did fine, and your goal should be buying captive bred stuff. Yeah, I get all that, and that was great.
Yeah.
I don't fault them for that at all. So, and buying captive bred is better. It's not, it's not my cup of tea, but it is, for the average person, it's the better snake to get.
I like to play with the imports though.
I wouldn't.
Imports.
I like the unknown.
There wouldn't have been a collection there was nobody. I couldn't have done what I was interested in doing. I had to go the import route. It was just all there was to it.
Same. Preach, Ryan. Tell them. You know what I'm saying?
It's just reality.
Pastor Young out here in these green tree python streets.
It's just the reality. You couldn't get when I came into it, you couldn't get a captive bred Aru. It had been done a couple times, but very, very little. Couldn't have got, you couldn't have got a Maruki. You couldn't have got any of that stuff.
That's true.
So
that's true. Even back when I got in, you had to take chances from people online that said their baby was farmed. It was farm baby.
You gotta just do it yourself if you want it at a certain point. Yeah. And I kind of like that anyways, because then I know what the adults, I know what I'm starting with.
Yeah.
You got any closing statements, Mr. Ryan Young?
I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been fun. It's been good.
We appreciate having you.
Oh, no worries.
Hell yeah.
We don't get to talk to legends all the time, and these are our favorite episodes.
Well, if I appreciate you humble me with your comments, but a lot of guys done a lot more.
Man, you done bred 50 level species, man. Ryan, we ain't trying to hear that humble shit, man. You can pop your collar a little bit.
Oh man, there's a lot of these are rookie numbers to some of these guys. There's guys out there that bred hundreds of species. So.
Yeah, but they may not have, people breeding, they have different circumstances. So, if you can do it at all, I got to take my hat off to you.
I appreciate that.
You've done it a lot, but I think that's all I got. Yeah. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
No, it's been one of the runs, man.
I'm looking at the wall behind him, and I'm looking at my ceiling.
Oh, you got the tongue and groove time?
If you're in my house, can you grab me a beer? I'm out.
Got some snake art. One Chondro picture.
All right. Well,
man, that's what's up. You a gun guy, Ryan? You a gun guy?
I appreciated you guys having me. It was fun.
All right.
Keno had one more question. He want to know if you got guns.
Oh, this is North Idaho, baby. We all got guns.
Okay, all right. Cool.
Keno was thinking he was going to do a breaking and entering in your crib and steal some stuff.
No, I'm not thinking about doing that at all. No, I'm not.
Yeah, you.
Why would you tell this man that?
Is that that's windy?
First,
windy
y'all got
city?
me jumping.
I'm assuming that Windy City means Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys. They don't let you guys have any guns, do they?
Look. First, y'all got me jumping him. Then y'all got me breaking in his man's house.
No, we never said you was gonna jump him. We was talking about Pat and Mark.
Hey, we can have guns, Ryan, but they slowly trying to make us like
God
California.
damn it.
I'm gonna have to get up out of here.
Yeah, no, it's this is yeah, it sounds
I won't
like
go.
it sounds like a war zone out here on some of these weekends when people be shooting.
They ain't taking my damn gun.
Shit, I can't stop seeing.
Ryan lives on the range. He got plenty of guns.
I'm not, I'm not a guy that has a ton of them, but I definitely have a few.
Right.
That's what you say. That's what you say now.
Ooh.
You said it's
We gotta
right.
kick
Same
through the
thing
door.
about chondros, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely way more of a chondro guy than a gun guy.
Well,
Hey,
that's been
we
it
agree
for.
on that. We can definitely agree on that one. I'm the same way.
Yep.
Fuck.
Well, that's been it for us. Another episode of the Chondro Bar Room. Thank you for everybody that showed up. Thank you
Yeah,
to Mr. Ryan Young for gracing us with his presence.
for sure,
And
man. We appreciate you for pulling up on us.
No worries.
that's it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, you gotta come back too.
All right. Yeah, I'll come back.
And
All right.
uterensis. We're gonna see what the uterensis do.
Well, hopefully next year I can produce uterensis again. It's been a few years, so.
Come on, we're gonna get together. We're gonna talk about something.
All right. All right. Take care, guys.
Good
All
night,
right.
y'all.
All right.
Till
Rock
next
on.
week, y'all. Peace.
Everyone have a